Okay, I'm thinking a lot of guys would really hate this because it's gouging in pretty good. Hey guys, John here. Yeah, I gotta work a little bit on this Cadillac today, the old Junkyard Caddy. So the last time I was mucking around with it, I was struggling with trying to get most of the paint off the hood. I noticed some spots of rust that are coming up from behind the paint, and I don't like that. I want to grind that off because they're gonna pop up right under my new paint if I don't get rid of them. So that's what I thought I would do, is get rid of that stuff. So anyway, I've been grinding on it, and I'm coming up with different ways to take the paint off. Now, obviously there's chemical strippers. I got the whole car sandblasted. There's a lot of different things you can do to get rid of paint. Most of the fenders and stuff, I'm honestly, I'm not gonna try to strip all that stuff off. I'm just not, because it's gonna be too much work. Any place I see rust, I'll fix it. Other than that, I'm gonna leave the paint on. But I did get a bunch of it off on this, but what you can see is those machine marks, and they're even showing up on my camcorder. And they came from this. This is a 6-inch wheel that I had on the Chicago angle grinder. It spins about, I think, 7,000 RPMs. So it really whizzes, and it left a bunch of gouges. I did get it out. I don't think I caused any metal deflections. It feels nice and smooth, except for where the gouges are. Now, I don't think they're gonna bother me a whole lot because I'm gonna primer surface the whole thing. You know, first I'll shoot it down with some etching primer after I wipe it all down and get my fingerprints off it. But I'll do that, and I'll hit it with some primer surfacer and then sand it off smooth. So I don't believe these are gonna be a problem for me. In fact, if anything, it'll be a place for the primer and everything to bite into. So it probably in the whole broad scheme of things, it'll be okay that I went a little overzealous with that. So I did that, and then I took 80 grit with a DA and took the rest of it off, and this is what I've got. Then I came over here and I got some new tools that I thought I'd give a try. But I bought this, and it just goes right on this angle grinder. It's hook and loop, and I bought a bunch of these 60 grit in a 7-inch hook and loop pad that hooks right onto the angle grinder. Now the angle grinder is not variable speed, so it was really whizzing, and this is what happened. It actually burned some of the paint right into it. So that tells you that I wasn't paying close enough attention and got it way too hot. And I know I got it hot because when I touched it, about burned my finger. Now, it was enough to raise this up, but I just let it cool down naturally, and it went back down, and I think I'm okay. It feels pretty smooth, but all that to say, not a good way to go. So my next attempt is gonna be with the same 60 grit discs, only I'm gonna put it on my Makita polisher, which is variable speed, and I'm gonna see what that does. Because once this happened to this, also the sandpaper winds up being useless. It's just spinning too fast. So let's see what happens if I go ahead and put this on there, and I'll give that a try and see if that effectively cuts the paint off without tearing up everything and causing warping and all that kind of stuff. Again, it's all gummed up. I gotta figure this out. It's almost like I polished it with that 60 grit. Well, it's taking it off, but it didn't get it hot this time because I'm running slower with this. So my next plan, like G, I think it is by now, is we're gonna try this 36 grit on the variable speed polisher and just see if we can't rub it off with that. I think my biggest problem was I'd sand off material, the debris would be laying there, and I'd go over it, and it trapped up into the sandpaper and plugged it up. So I'm gonna see if I can just go one direction, but first, before I even do that, I'm gonna wipe this thing off, start with a clean slate. This old Makita, it's got that soft start, so it doesn't just take off crazy. And I got it set, so I don't know how many RPMs it is, but it's gonna be slow. Nice and cool. Okay, good. Ah, that's something, ain't it? Kind of just took it right off. And now I got a big pile up here. I don't know if you can see it. Big pile of dust. It's not throwing dust in the air too bad either, which is good because I'm not wearing a mask. I know I should be, but I'm not. I think that'll do it. Okay, I'm thinking a lot of guys would really hate this because it's gouging in pretty good. I mean, it's leaving scratches right in the metal. Is it gonna make the metal too light? I don't know, maybe the car will be lighter when I'm done. all the paint is here in a big heap. Well, I could just pick it up by the handful. Okay, so I'm gonna wipe this off because I don't want to run through this dust again. And then I'm gonna hit it with this 60 grit on the rotary sander, variable speed. I'm gonna leave it the same speed adjustment. Let's just see what happens. All right, give this thing a little wipe off again. I want to pick up this dust. I think that's what's jamming up the sandpaper on me. But you can see why I'm doing this too. I've got right here, there's a big rusty patch. I'm gonna sand that probably right out. That's pitted. What I can't sand out, I'll treat down in the pits. Because rust like that really is the pits. What are you gonna do? Okay, my sandpaper's staying clean as a whistle. Nice and clean. Things aren't getting too hot. It did warm it up a little bit, but it's not hot. I'm gonna wipe this off again, because I'm not gonna try to run through this dust that's already ground off. And you can see there's quite a bit of it. So I'm gonna keep cleaning this off as I go. This paint seems to have a sticky to it. I do got one little spot where it's hanging up. I can scratch that off the paper. Still feels fairly sharp. It's really not a very aggressive paper. It's like a closed coat paper. Should have got the 40 grit. I think that would be going a lot quicker. Got a little dent here showing up because the paint's not coming out. It's working fairly decent. What I'm doing is I'm running this pretty slow. I'm moving at a slow and steady pace, and I'm holding this as flat as I can without the spindle cranking into the hood. And it seems to be working okay. Wow, well, yeah, it's taking the paint off. And it's taking a little metal off too, I gotta admit. You can see there's a little bit of metal in with the paint. Probably there's some guys shrieking in horror as they watch this, but I don't think the hood's gonna fall off. Honestly, I don't like stripping. I figure the paint they put on there is probably stuck better than anything I'm gonna stick to it, and I'd probably be better off leaving the old paint, sanding it up good so that my next layer sticks to the paint that's stuck to the metal and has been stuck there for 50 years. But of course, when you got places where the rust is coming through, like right here and over here, a couple spots, and you wind up having to take a bunch of it off and just start from scratch. Looks to me like I got some little bit of low spots here. We'll see what they look like when it's all primed out. So my next idea is this. Instead of going ahead after this with that rotary sander and the 60 grit, I'm gonna try with a DA and some 40 grit because that's what I happen to have. And first I'm gonna take my trusty shop vac and suck all the dust off there. And there's quite a bit of it. You can see it just tore that paint right off of there. I mean, I'm plowing up a heap of paint. Look at that. That's a lot. So I'm gonna take that, and there is some glitter in it. Take the shop vac, suck that off, and try with a DA. Okay, you can see what it's done. It's left a pretty hatchy pattern on there of grinder marks. Yeah, there's no way of sugarcoating it. They're just flat out grinder marks. Now you can see where the 60 grit took a bunch of them out. Well, let's try 40 grit on this DA and see if we can take the rest of that paint off there, which most of it's gone. Just a little bit of haze of green. See if we can take that off, and then maybe we'll hit it with the 60 grit with the other one. Then we'll hit it with 80 grit eventually before we prime it. Not much. Taking forever. I'm gonna go back to using the rotary. I'll show you what it did. It did prep a nice surface, but it just takes so long. Look at that. It did prep it. It takes out all those gouges pretty much, but it'll take me forever. So I'm gonna hit it with that 60 grit and the rotary sander. Not even warmed up a little. Now right here is where I hit it with the DA. Let's do a comparison right here. Couldn't really say the same place as long, but I did a little bit. Well, let me show you what that looks like. Okay, with the DA, you can see there's just swirly scratch marks there. With the rotary sander, it's pretty clean. It all feels a lot smoother. I mean, it's smooth here now. You can see where it's got those deep scratches that are, well, they're not as deep as they used to be. It's thinning them down a little bit. Plus, it also takes the paint off the edge real quick with the rotary sander as opposed to the DA. So it looks like I'll be doing the whole thing with the rotary sander. So as I'm sanding on this thing forever, I'm getting there though. I'm getting her cleaned up. When I put on a new sheet of sandpaper, I go ahead to the big flatter areas because it's really aggressive and it bites onto that. But then when it gets worn out, that's when I start coming into the smaller areas where the edge is like that, because I don't want to put too much pressure. You know, once you get into a spot like that, the pressure of your downward pressure multiplies. So I don't want to use really aggressive brand new sandpaper in a place like that where it's just going to tear right into it. So I'm using that worn out sandpaper on the disc around these kinds of areas. But here's a spot, I don't know if it'll come up on the film. There's rust there, see it? Rust, and it goes right up and under that paint. So I guess I really had no choice but to strip this thing off. Well guys, I got her all ground off. I got this all sanded down and it's pretty cleaned up. I'm gonna hit it with 80 grit. I'm gonna make sure that putty's nice shape. I got asphalt up here where I saw that little bit of rust. And I got asphalt on the edge where there's rust, and it's starting to turn colors. By morning it will. I've had it wet now. I've been going around dabbing it with a foam brush, and it's staying wet right now, and I got it wet, and I've been keeping it wet for a half hour like the instructions say. So I'm gonna let that treat it, and then I'm gonna clean it up, and we're gonna be ready to prime this thing pretty soon. Hey, hope you guys like this video. Like, share, subscribe. See you guys on the next one.